This episode is brought to you in part by Split Software. Split is the feature delivery platform you need to help you exceed modern expectations in continuous and progressive delivery. As they once said, if you're not first, you're last. Similarly, if you're not delivering, you're falling behind. A software release shouldn't be stressful, and yet they tend to happen late at night after many days of stress. Imagine if it were otherwise. No mishaps, headaches, or hair loss. Split is the feature data platform software engineers need to release features quickly and safely. You and up to 10 of your colleagues can create your first feature flags at split.io/AWS Morning Brief. That's split.io/AWS Morning Brief. Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS, the podcast. I'm Corey Quinn. Let's get right after it. Amazon GameLift now supports AWS local zones. And you know what? It makes sense. Local zones are designed for customers with borderline absurd latency requirements, and gaming companies are exactly that. Designing a multi-tenant SFTP server with AWS Transfer Family. No. The only reason to use an SFTP endpoint for AWS storage is because you're working with a legacy customer who insists upon it. Those are generally large banks and similar institutions, the exact same kind of customer who will absolutely throw a tantrum to rival my 2-year-old as soon as the phrase multi-tenant enters the conversation. You stand this up just for them, you get the data the hell into something sensible, and then you never talk about or think about it ever again. Know before you go. 5 reasons to join AWS at VMware Explore 2022. I suppose it tracks that I've heard nothing about this conference from VMware and had to hear about it instead from AWS. Announcing the latest AWS Heroes, August 2022. Particular congratulations are due to longstanding client, friend, and periodic moral compass of mine, Liz Fong-Jones. Happy 10th anniversary, Amazon S3 Glacier, a decade of cold storage in the cloud. The data usage patterns that AWS has got to be seeing are fascinating to me. For example, what percentage of data is written and then never read ever again? Note that you don't have enough context to say that this is inherently a bad thing. Think about audit logs that you're required to keep, or images customers pay you to store and trust will still be there should they ever need them. New AWS support app and Slack to manage support cases. This is awesome if you have business tier or higher AWS support. If not, you sound poor, and AWS has zero interest in making your interaction with support issues any easier for you. New fine-grained visual embedding powered by Amazon QuickSight. That's right, Amazon Basics Tableau fixes none of its underlying issues, but does strive to be prettier. Good. You understand your ultimate target market, at least. Reduce network traffic costs of your Amazon MSK consumers with rack awareness. Okay, this is big. This is the first tacit admission that I can recall seeing from AWS that cross-AZ traffic costs are a significant burden to customers. More like this, please, and then freaking fix it.
This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Sysdig. Sysdig secures your cloud from source to run. They believe, as do I, that DevOps and security are inextricably linked. If you want to learn more about how they view this, check out their blog. It's definitely worth the read. To learn more about how they are absolutely getting it right from where I sit, visit sysdig.com and tell them that I sent you. That's SYSDIG.com. And my thanks to them for their continued support of this ridiculous nonsense.
Conduct what-if analyses with Amazon Forecast up to 80% faster than before. What if Amazon's retail store recommendations were actually germane to your lifestyle rather than whatever Amazon was trying to push as a sponsored product. Well, I imagine that Amazon forecast would have a heck of a lot more credibility based upon the earned trust that would result. Case study: Amazon Aurora supports Nintendo's Mario Kart Tour. A deep racer competitor is emerging and they're using AWS. Transformation journeys, creating and delivering amazing content experiences in the cloud at IBC 2022. Nimble Studio is a blast to play around with in my experience, but I can't for the life of me figure out why they're talking about it at what sounds like a root beer conference. Simplifying Active Directory domain join with AWS Systems Manager. Wait, this is what it takes to have a Windows server automatically join a domain? The blog post that I read here rivals getting your application deployed onto Kubernetes from scratch with regard to complexity. Who on earth would make this, by which I mean Windows Server as part of a domain, a part of their production environment other than under duress? Analyzing AWS WAF logs and Amazon CloudWatch logs. The fact that this post isn't, they're both AWS services. Of course, the service teams talk to one another, so it's simply a button click in the console away, encapsulates one of my greatest fears for the future of AWS as the de facto platform of relevance. And finally, Amazon CloudFront introduces Origin Access Control, or OAC. Now, 3 reads of this post later, and I absolutely do not understand what makes this in any way different from or superior to the long-standing Origin Access Identity, or OIC, functionality that already exists. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Let's get after it.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.